There are moments when a headline appears and you genuinely pause, unsure whether the correct response is laughter, disbelief, or second-hand embarrassment. One of those moments arrived recently with a breathless declaration from the British tabloids suggesting that Meghan Sussex has huge plans for UK domination, and that those plans are supposedly making Prince Harry uneasy. UK domination. Just sit with that phrase for a second, because it immediately raises the question, domination of what, exactly? Supermarkets? Stationery aisles? Boutique shelves stocked with artisanal chocolate and wellness journals? The language is so inflated, so melodramatic, that it tells you everything you need to know before you even read the article. This is not journalism. It's performance. The image the tabloids want you to imagine is almost comical. Meghan Sussex, somewhere in California, gazing out over the hills of Montecito, plotting a return to Britain like a general planning a campaign. Not through politics or power, but through lifestyle branding. Jam jars as weapons, notebooks as conquest. It would be funny if it weren't so revealing. Because when you strip away the hysteria, the basic premise collapses almost instantly. A business considering whether to sell products in another country is not an act of domination. It is commerce. It is how global markets work. Brands expand. Companies test demand. Products cross borders every single day without being framed as a hostile takeover. There is no shadowy war room. No sinister strategy, no maps of Britain pinned to the wall with red markers. Just the ordinary mechanics of modern business in a globalized economy. But the British press seems incapable of describing anything Meghan does in ordinary terms. If she breathes, it's strategic. If she smiles, it's calculated. If she sells jam, it's an invasion. And honestly, it's embarrassing, particularly if you're British and would quite like the rest of the world not to think the entire country has lost its grip on reality. What makes the coverage even more absurd is the way Prince Harry is wedged into the narrative as the anxious, conflicted husband. According to unnamed sources, he is supposedly wary of Meghan's plans, as though he spends his evenings pacing around their home, nervously muttering about British retail logistics. Let's pause and be serious for a moment. This is a couple who have weathered relentless media harassment, invasive surveillance, legal battles, security threats, public smears, and profound personal loss. They walked away from an entire institution together. They rebuilt their lives, careers, and public roles from scratch on their own terms. And we are expected to believe that the possible UK availability of a lifestyle brand, is the thing that finally introduces tension. It's not just implausible, it's laughable. Every credible public indication shows them operating as a united front. They appear together when it matters. They support each other's work. They speak with consistency and alignment. There is no evidence of this alleged friction beyond anonymous whispers that conveniently mirror tabloid fantasy. But reality has never been allowed to interfere with a good soap opera. Because the truth is, invented conflict is useful. It serves several purposes. The first is distraction, and there is a great deal the public might otherwise be paying attention to. The royal family's long-standing proximity to deeply uncomfortable figures and the growing unease surrounding those associations is not an easy subject. It invites scrutiny. It demands accountability. So instead, we get a safer narrative, a fictional marital wobble, a speculative disagreement, a story that is far easier to digest than systemic questions about power, privilege, and silence. The second purpose is control. The palace-aligned press thrives on hierarchy. on the idea that some figures are stable, sensible and legitimate, while others are disruptive, emotional or dangerous. By portraying Meghan as overambitious and Harry as uncertain, the media subtly suggests that the Sussex partnership is fragile, while positioning the remaining royal structure as calm and dependable. It's propaganda by implication. This tactic is not new. Over the years, the British press has repeatedly invented tensions between Meghan and Harry. Sometimes it's about family, sometimes money, sometimes titles, security or public appearances. The details change, but the message stays the same. This marriage is unstable, and yet inconveniently it persists. It adapts. It thrives. It refuses to collapse on schedule. That is deeply frustrating if your entire narrative depends on the idea that Meghan was a temporary disruption rather than a permanent shift. Conflict also sells. That's the third reason. A united, mutually supportive couple doesn't generate clicks. Drama does. Fear does. The suggestion of betrayal or collapse keeps readers hooked. Will Harry finally wake up? Is Meghan pushing too far? Are they on the brink? It's reality TV framing applied to real people, and the ease with which parts of the British media embrace it should trouble anyone who still believes journalism is meant to inform rather than manipulate. But here's the thing they don't seem to realise. The obsession no longer reads as outrage. It reads as heartbreak. Because every headline about Meghan's supposed plans sounds like the plaintive cry of an ex who cannot move on. Are you thinking about me? Are you coming back? Do I still matter? The British press seems unable to accept that Meghan's life is no longer oriented around Britain, that the UK is not the centre of her universe, that she is not lying awake at night wondering whether tabloid editors approve of her choices. So they project, they invent, they narrate, they tell themselves stories in which Britain still looms large in her life because the alternative that she has moved on, emotionally and practically, is too painful to confront. And let's be clear, her success does not hinge on British approval. It hasn't for a long time. The idea that she needs UK validation to thrive is comforting for those who want to believe they still hold power over her. But the world has changed. Britain no longer commands the cultural gravity it once did. British tabloids may imagine themselves as global kingmakers, but their influence is increasingly loud rather than decisive. Meghan is operating in a global marketplace with an international audience. Whether her brand launches in the UK will be a business decision, not an emotional one. And that's what makes the hysteria so revealing. Because if this were truly about commerce, it would be reported calmly, with data, context and analysis. Instead, we get militarized language and breathless speculation about marital strain, which tells us this isn't about what Meghan is doing. It's about how the British press feels about it. Sidelined, ignored, irrelevant. There's also something quietly insulting about the way Prince Harry is portrayed in all of this. The framing suggests he is passive, anxious, easily led, a man who needs protection from his wife's ambition. It strips him of agency. It infantilizes him. And it ignores his own long-standing advocacy for independence, reform, and stepping away from outdated systems. A man who crossed an ocean, relinquished royal duties, endured estrangement, and rebuilt his life from the ground up, is apparently rattled by the idea of British consumers buying lifestyle products. Sure, what we are really watching is a slow-motion collapse of narrative control. The press keeps repeating the same tropes, but they land with diminishing force. The exaggerations feel desperate. The language feels overwrought. UK domination isn't just silly, it's a tell. It reveals a media culture that no longer knows how to talk about Meghan without resorting to extremes, because acknowledging her as a normal businesswoman would require dismantling years of villainization. So they escalate, they dramatize, they reach for ever more absurd metaphors, and in doing so, they make themselves the punchline. From the outside, this doesn't look like fear of Meghan's power. It looks like insecurity. A media establishment struggling to accept that it no longer sets the terms of engagement. Every attempt to diminish her only highlights how much mental space she still occupies. Every speculative story underscores how little access they actually have. Its fixation masquerading as critique. Meghan and Harry are living their lives, running their projects, raising their children. The British press is still arguing with a fictional version of Meghan that exists only in their imagination, a projection, a phantom, a convenient villain. So the next time you see another headline about her alleged schemes or imagined conflicts, take it for what it is. Not insight, but insecurity. Not reporting, but rumination. Like an ex who keeps checking your social media, reading meaning into every post, and asking mutual friends whether you've mentioned them. Did she ask about me? And the answer that hurts the most, is no. Not at all.